everyone! I've missed you over the last year and a half. It's been such a long time since I've got to hang out with you, and I want to give you all a hug. But I guess for right now, we'll just have to play some Star Wars. I wanted to make it as easy as I possibly could, so I'm here to walk you through some character creation. So the first thing you want to do is kind of think about what kind of character you want. What's the background? So, how far from scum and villainy did you come? Are you somebody that was maybe raised, like Luke, for example, as a farmer and then went into different aspects? Or have you been a smuggler your entire life? So, to kind of think about that aspect, it's all laid out in the PDF, so if you want to read through those, it'll definitely walk you through more thoroughly step by step by step. I'm just kind of giving you a brief overview so that you can just pause the video, read through the stuff, and then continue on your way. And the guides really help out too, so I'll be referencing the little numbers I use for where it is on the guide itself, so definitely take a look at that, especially if you get a little bit lost. But overall, it should be pretty simple and straightforward, but definitely you can look through the different sections and pull out those areas of the guides, and I hope that separating it out and organizing them out a little bit more made it helpful so that you can kind of guide yourself through the journey. So after you go and put in and what you want for your background, then definitely, write your name. So we're just gonna call this Chatter over my little kitty cat. She's the biggest fluff ball in the world, and I'm sure you guys will get to meet her sometime. She's just too busy sleeping to help me out today. And then the next part is, step 2, is to roll for your obligation. And your obligation is some sort of debt that the character has. So it can either be like, owing money to someone, or they owe a favor, something that just kind of rides on the back of the character's mind. And sometimes it actually does come up in gameplay. So what you want to do is, everyone starts out with kind of a set limit of obligation, and that depends on how many people are in the party. So we're going to start out with, probably about between 10 to 20, and I'll let you know for sure. I'll definitely make sure that that's big and bold how much to start out with. And what you're going to want to do is you can roll for random, or if you have something that works with your character in mind, just let me know and we can work together to kind of figure that out and see if how that works into the narrative. But you could also just roll for it and make it random. So I'll go through how to roll for it real quick. So what you want to do is take your trusty little D100 and you just roll it. We're just going to let that roll. And it looks like the top one is 22 right there. So 22 on our little chart. So you can reference the chart in the folder. And 22... we'll go blackmail. Someone has discovered one of the NPC's dirty secrets and is using that knowledge for some sort of gain. To make matters worse, the blackmailer possesses evidence that could possibly leak out. A holovid, bank records, a weapon used during a crime, and so on. In order to keep the secret safe, the character must do what he is told, although the blackmailer is savvy enough to keep the demand simple enough to maintain the blackmail for as long as possible, generally demanding money or favors. So, what you want to do, now that unfortunately this character is going to be blackmailed, you're going to want to write on the second page. It's going to be number 2 on the guide. And so, do blackmail. And then the obligation will just put plus 10. And you can write out what your little narrative story is behind why exactly it's blackmailed. It'll be necessary, so you definitely want to come up with that, but just for the purpose of me guiding you through, I'm not going to do that right now. But you do want to fill it out there and just do 10 for right now, but I'll let you know the exact number once we figure out how many people are going to be in the group. So that's your obligation, and how it works is at the beginning or the end of the session. I'll probably actually do it at the end so I can prepare, and it'll be for the next session. But you roll a D100, stay in the video, and then you see exactly on the chart that I fill out, the Game Master fills out, determining on the total number of obligation. So say that the entire group, everyone having plus 10, and there's 4 people in the group, it would be 40. So for this roll in that situation, because 75 is on top, 75 will be the number, and since it's above 40, it did not trigger. If it's below 40, it would have triggered. And if you rolled a double number, it would have triggered for twice as much. And you really don't want to be the person that triggers for, because that'll decrease your strain by 2 and the rest of your party by 1. So it does have cumulative effects over the entire campaign. So that's how obligation works in general. However, you can use obligation as a currency. So for instance, you wanted something in the game but you couldn't get it and you didn't want to save up for it. It might be worth taking out some obligation to get that necessary resource, like, maybe repairs for a ship or something like that. Something very important to take on that extra obligation. But somebody does have to be responsible, and it will eventually pay off. You actually eventually have to pay it off, but it'll eventually trigger too. So it does make it a little bit iffy sometimes, but that's one of the reasons I want to roll for it before, so that I have time to prepare in case something comes up that we just need to do it that way. So after that, you pick out your species. So go through the list. I wrote a little brief summary from the book so you can just kind of see which ones interest you. And then you can read more on that species. And there's a couple things you need to fill out once you figure out which species you are. And that includes marking your characteristics. So in number 3, fill out what species you are first. And then in 3A, with the little round circles and the green little things, you're definitely going to want to mark out what your characteristic is. For example, our little chatter here, let's say she wants to be a human. And for the human, under the characteristics, it's just 2s all the way across. Some species will be different. So it is important to keep in mind that you need to cater to your individual choice. And then after you do that, you're going to mark out the attributes. So these guys up here. So it'll tell you how much is each. So for her, it's going to be your brawn plus 10 for humans. So 10 plus brawn. And I usually just write it down. You can fill these out. And for strain, it is also 10 plus brawn for humans. And that can change too when you upgrade your characteristics. So that might not be stable. So make sure you use your handy dandy little pencil. And so after you do that, humans also start off with some beginning XP. Well, actually all the races do. So make sure that you mark how much you start off with, because you're going to want to spend that later. And then also, different races have different special qualities. So humans in particular, they can spend 2 skills, like upgrade 2 skills. And we'll get to that a little bit later, but I'm just kind of hold that special effect from them off to the side of my brain, and then we'll get to that. So next, on step 4, is you choose what career. And your career is kind of like your base thing, what you want to do in the game. Do you want to fly ships? Do you want to talk to a lot of people? Are you more of a trader? Are you kind of a loner? Do you smuggle things? We're going to actually use smuggler as our little example right now. So Miss Chatter is the best smuggler. She hides all the things in her fur. It's the #1 place to look for my cell phone for sure. But we'll put smuggler down here. And for every career, you'll have some certain skills you can choose from. And you can fill those in for free. So the ones that smugglers have, they have 4 career skills, and you can find them either in the PDF, or if you have the little talent tree, they're going to be up here in the corner. On this corner, actually. So right up here in the corner. So, hers, the skills are coordination, deception, knowledge, the underworld, perception, piloting for space, skullduggery, streetwise, and vigilance. So we got to mark all those because they actually cost less when you go to upgrade them. So for the first one, coordination, I usually just write in where you get it from. You can check it off, but I usually just write it in. And deception, knowledge from the underworld, somewhere over on the other side. Perception, piloting in space, skullduggery, streetwise, and vigilance. Okay, so those will actually cost less to upgrade later. And for human, well, actually for this skill, for smuggler, you get to pick 4 of them to upgrade right away. It changes, it's either 4 or 3, depending on which of the core rulebooks it came from. So, definitely double check. But let's see, what should we upgrade for her? Maybe we'll upgrade... I'm also looking to see, because deception relies on cunning. So if they all rely on the same base characteristic, that might make it easier too. So, maybe we'll go for deception right here, for being a little smuggler and lying about things. So, what you want to do is, in this case, it's going to be a lot easier to take what your attribute is and then upgrade it. So, let's say you have 2 for your cunning for this deception roll. So you'd want 2, and then you get to upgrade it 1. So you get to remove one of the green ones and upgrade it with the yellow one. And these are nice because you get the triumphs. Those can definitely be handy. Those are definitely worth upgrading for. So your roll would be a green and a yellow, if you were to make that roll. And it's the same. Let's say that instead of just 1 deception, you had 3 deceptions. You would actually need, you would start off, if you had 3 deceptions, you start off with 3 little dice, and then your cunning is 2, so you would exchange 2 of these for the upgraded die. And then you'd have 2 chances to get a triumph. So you'd be rolling that instead. So it is helpful to know how that works when you're actually upgrading your skills. So which ones do you think you'll use the most? Let's see. Vigilance is also nice because that's the one you use for like initiative. And she's pretty perceptive. Let's go with that. And maybe a little bit of space piloting. She probably would have to be if she was a smuggler. So right there, our career skills are all done. So now we can move on to our talent trees. So you actually kind of got a little bit of a hint with it, with this little talent tree. And with the talent trees, you can fill in and spend points on them to upgrade to do different certain special things. And you also get bonus career skills. So you want to fill in what talent is, and we're going to go with Miss Chatter being a little thief because she steals things all the time. There we go. We'll put thief down there. And her extra career skills are located right here. And so those would be computers, skullduggery, stealth, and vigilance. So we'll put some computers. Skullduggery. Stealth. and vigilance. And then she gets a free upgrade in 2 of those. So without having to spend anything, no experience points, she just gets to upgrade 2. So we're definitely going to go with a little bit of stealth here. And what else should we do? I'll take a little bit of skullduggery. Okay. So that's your main stuff. That's pretty much how you're going to do it and how it's all going to work out for you. So the next thing we get to do is to spend these experience points we have right down here on the bottom here. We get to spend these. So there's certain ways you can spend them. For example, you can upgrade these characteristics. These guys up here. And these are handy because these will give you the ability to have more yellow dice, and it's the only time you can actually upgrade these with experience points. You have to have skills or different talents and things to do it later on in the game, so it's very, very helpful to do it now. And so if you were going to upgrade those, it would be 10 times what the level you will be upgrading to for. So example, let's say, because we have a lot of skills over here that run off cunning, we'll upgrade her cunning to 3. So to upgrade her cunning to 3, it would cost 3 times 10, so 30 points. So we'd want to come down here. Actually, it's over here on this side that you want to write it. So that would make it 80 points. So she still has 80 points she can spend, and she upgraded one of her characteristics. And keep in mind that if you upgrade one of these guys, it could also affect other things too, like your willpower or your wounds. So you can upgrade skills, and those are these guys. So let's say that it would be pretty good if she had a little bit more perception. It's nice because perception is actually a skill within her career, so it does not cost an extra 5 points to upgrade. So for this case, she'd be going to rank 2, so it would be 5 times 2, because it's going to be rank 2. If it was 3, it'd be 5 times 3, so 5 times 2 is 10, and that's all she would need to spend, and she could get that extra point. And then we'll come down here and adjust this. So for 10, she would get an extra point. Oh, also, I forgot, because she's a human, she gets those 2 extra skills. So don't forget those little special things, especially for humans. You get those 2 extra skills that are not career skills you can upgrade. So for her, I think we need a little bit of ranged light so we can shoot things. And let's do a little bit of brawl, because she's pretty feisty. So those are my 2. Okay, and those are important to get in as soon as you remember it, just because if you want to upgrade those skills, it's going to cost different amounts of experience. So now, if we wanted to upgrade a non-career skill, let's say she wants to be a little bit more athletic. To upgrade a non-career skill to 1, it would be 1 times 5, so 5, plus that additional 5 points. So it would actually be 10 points to upgrade to that career skill. So that would take her down to 60. And then another thing you can upgrade for is more talent trees. So you don't have to choose one specifically in your career. You can, but you don't have to. It costs less to get ones in your career. And we do have extra ones specifically for like smugglers and explorers, so if you want those, those cost less if you are a smuggler or an explorer. But if you want to get one outside of your career, it's going to cost a little bit more. So to get an additional talent tree within your career, it's going to be times 10 the total that you will have. So for Miss Chatter here, if she wanted to get another smuggler specialization tree, it would be 20. But that would be just 20 within her career. But if she wanted to get one outside her career, say like a trader explorer trader tree, she would need to pay an additional 10. So that takes it from 20 plus 10, so it would cost 30 points for her to get an additional tree. And you can get them at any time of the game. It's not something that's specific to your character creation. That's only for characteristics that it's specific that you can upgrade with experience points. So what we'll do is we'll take out her 60 there and subtract that 30, so we have 30 points. And one thing to note too during this time is if you do need additional experience points or you need a little bit extra credits, you can pay obligation for them. So it's going to be plus 5 obligation for 5 experience points, plus 10 obligation for 10 experience points, and you can build them. And also plus 5 obligation for 1,000 credits, and plus 5 obligation for 2,500 credits, so 2,500 credits. However, that will increase yours within the group total, and it'll make it more likely that the obligation is going to pop and trigger your strain. So it'll make more likely that your strain will be triggered when the obligation pops. So it's a heavy cost. It really is a heavy cost. But if you need to do it, you can exchange that. Just like maybe 5 or 10 points at most, but that's a heck of a lot if everyone does that. So keep that in mind. But if you're 5 points short, maybe. So think about it. Another thing you can do, since she still's got 30 little experience points left, we can upgrade the talents on the talent tree. So, see here, little smuggler thief, little talent tree. Let's see. Maybe we'll go with indistinguishable. So, it upgrades the difficulty checks to identify characters. So yeah, let's do that. And the cost is noted too. So it's a cost of 5. So upgrade this. Okay, so she's got 25 experience points left she can either spend or save. And I would definitely spend them. Let's see. Let's look at her characteristics. And I would really like to upgrade one of those because it's the only time we can. And we could spend for the obligation to get the 5 extra points we would need to upgrade them to a 3. So let's think of which ones we want to do. If we look through, we already have cunning upgraded, and we couldn't upgrade that again without more experience points. So maybe let's do agility. Agility sounds good, because that would also be good for her range light. So let's upgrade let's first take our extra obligation. So we'll take 5 points of obligation to make 30 points. And turn this 10 into a 15. And then turn this 25. It would be turning into a 30, but I think I'm just going to skip that step and we'll go for a 0 and just come up here and upgrade this agility to a 3. So that way, on any of her agility checks or cunning checks, she will at least get 3 dice to roll. And she can upgrade them depending on how many skills she has in that specific character. So after we did that, and we're all upgraded, we need to figure out our attributes. So it does have a little bit in the book, and you can definitely go through the slides. The slides will step you through step by step by step by step, all in writing, not confusing, to figure it out. But we're going to fix the wounds and the strain, and double check. Did our brawn change? No. Did our willpower change? No. Okay. So our defense starts at 0, 0 for ranged and for melee. And those can change depending on your armor is the main thing that'll do it for you, but sometimes you have skills and stuff that can do it too. And so we're just putting them at 0, 0 for now, and we can always update that. And your soak is your brawn, and also things like armor 2 will also add soak. And the main thing to remember at soak is the amount of damage you can take before it actually starts hitting your wound points. So it's really good to have a high soak, and it's always at least equal to your brawn. Okay. So next step is to figure out the motivations of the character, and that's going to be on the second sheet. And you got to have 2 of them. I'll just do one for you and step you through how to do one. So you roll a d10, and then you look at the chart associated with the motivations. That'll tell you what type of motivation. So, or if you have one that's actually part of your character, you could do that too. So if you have something that would really tie in well with your character, like your character was an ex-slave or something like that, then that'll work out really well, and we can talk about that. So a 4 on our motivation chart is a cause. So we'll look over here at the causes. Oh. So a 4 on the motivation chart is a cause. So we're going to roll a d100 to figure out what the specific cause is. Let's see. Looks like it's a 90. Go with that. So a 90 on the specific clauses is capitalism. The character has an unabashed capitalist and fights for the rights of merchants, trading organizations, and businesses, sometimes running counter to the wishes of both the empire and some criminal groups. Okay. So I'm going to note that. There we go. And you can write a little backstory for it, or this motivation doesn't really fit our little smuggler character, but just because this is just going through it to show you, we're just going to let it fly. But yeah, you can definitely come up with a little backstory and get the second motivation too, because they're supposed to have 2 of them. And then do let me know those so that I can kind of help work those in the storylines and things like that to help make it enriching. So when you get your motivations, it's time to start gear shopping. So there is lots and lots of gear. I have a bunch of it in the book, so I didn't even scan in. So feel free to contact me if you want anything that you don't see within the gears that's provided in the PDFs. But we should have enough to get us started, and then as I have a little bit more time, I'll keep adding to the classroom to get that all working for us. But there is plenty of gear to choose from. Whether you can afford it right now, that's the hard part. So you start off with 500 credits. And you get a little bit more for pocket change, but you can't spend it during character creation, so just 500. And then what you're going to want to do is kind of figure out what... I usually start with armor, so just figure out what armor you want to do. And I actually created a little thing for you. I printed these out just to keep them handy. But these are little inventory sheets. They actually do the math of what your encumbrance is, and you can just copy it and keep it in your drive file and have it with you for the campaign. It keeps it a little bit more organized, at least for me, and this is kind of the way I prefer to do it. But you can also use the ones on the back of the character sheet if you feel like that. But yeah, these little handy dandy things will help kind of keep everything aligned. And I already spent all the gear for her just to kind of figure out, but yeah, definitely look through them. It tells you how much their cost is. Just deduct that when you purchase it and kind of write it out. Some of the important things to note is your encumbrance. Encumbrance is not necessarily the weight of the item, but how difficult the item is to carry. So if, for example, if you're carrying a whole bunch of bolts, like for your crossbow, your bowcaster, if you're not carrying them in a quiver or something, it's gonna be really cumbersome. But if you're carrying them all together in a neat little package, it's not gonna be that bad. So it really just depends on how difficult it's gonna be to carry. For example, armor is meant to be worn. So if you're wearing your armor, it has -3 encumbrance. But if you're carrying a set of armor, that will have the full encumbrance value. So figure out, what you want for armor and a weapon, or things I would suggest. I personally like backpacks, utility belts, and stem packs, but they do take up a lot of money, and you can always buy them from a trader later on. When you get farther in the game, you will have to roll for rarity to see exactly if the item you're looking for is available where you're looking for it, or if that trader has it and is willing to sell it to you. And that could also come in with your obligation too. So if you have a high criminal obligation, but it's a legitimate merchant, they may not be willing to sell you the goods. And it depends on where you are. Are you in an outer planet? Are you on a main trade highway? It's sometimes can get tricky, so take advantage of being able to buy whatever you want right now with what you have. So these are just things that I find handy because the backpack and the utility belt actually add to your encumbrance. So in the chart, if you put like -4, -1 encumbrance, it should do the math for you. So that's pretty much what I lined up. And then over here has your credits. And the 93 credits is actually, I roll the D100 because you get, after you spend everything, get everything arranged for your campaign, you can roll a D100 and see exactly like your pocket change. And I rolled a 93, so that's what I put on there. But if you roll 17, put that instead. Okay, and the last part of the section you need to fill out is over here. So you can add your, your gender, age, height, whatever. So those are just kind of filling out like the basic characteristics of your character that may be noticeable, like, any scarring, facial hair, things like that. Specific things that they've noticed, like, eye color and things like that. So that's just for fun. And that's the end of my notes. That's it for character creation. So thank you guys for hanging out with me. I'll make a couple other videos just to kind of walk you through how the dice works and that kind of stuff and what the dice actually are to make more sense. So we'll walk through all that in a little bit. But have fun. Enjoy making your character. If you have any questions at all, just send me a line and I'll help you out.